Hello and welcome to the Frans van Katch interview. I'm Annette Young. The relationship between Pakistan and the United States has been anything but smooth in recent months. Some weeks back, Washington and Islamabad finally ended a long diplomatic standoff after NATO killed 24 Pakistani troops on the border with Afghanistan. In retaliation, Islamabad had shut down vital land supply routes, but the Obama administration did not seem exactly eager to make nice with a country that Americans are increasingly believing is acting in bad faith. Now, joining me today in the studio is Pakistan's Foreign Secretary, Jalil Abbas Gilani. Foreign Secretary, thank you so much for being with us.
Pleasure to be on your network.
First of all, how would you describe current relations between the US and Pakistan?
Well, I think you need to realize that this is a very long partnership between Pakistan and the US. And in this partnership, you have many ups and downs because we need to realize that we have been allies for the last 65 years. Pakistan has been involved in every initiative that the US took in this region, including during the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Along the road, as in any relationship, you have ups and downs.
It's certainly reached a low point, though, hasn't it, in the last year or so?
It certainly was a low point after the Salalah incident, in which 24 of Pakistani soldiers were killed. Certainly that caused a major sense of hurt in Pakistan because we were partners in our joint fight against extremism, terrorism. And we were all both working for the stability in Afghanistan. So accordingly, a mistake was committed, which resulted in the death of 24 soldiers. The least that Pakistan expected was a word of apology. That is something that took time, and that basically brought us to this standoff for the last 7 to 8 months.
But many in Washington, D.C. believe that they can't trust the government in Islamabad when it comes to Afghanistan, that Pakistan is playing both sides of the game, pandering to the Taliban in Afghanistan, while at the same time trying to ensure that they still receive important American aid. Can you understand why the Americans feel angry?
If you basically, if you look into this relationship, there are many in the United States of America which deeply appreciate Pakistan's contribution towards this, against this war on terror, and also creating stability in Afghanistan. The point is that we both have basically differences of opinion on some of the issues. On the basic framework, which is to establish peace and stability in Afghanistan, I think we are basically on the same page. Where we differ, I think certainly we have differences on the mechanism, and I think this is what is being referred to. We have a certain perception with regard to Afghanistan. There is a certain perception in the US with regard to Afghanistan, how to move things forward. If you look at the situation over the last couple of years, I think the stand that Pakistan has taken over the years regarding to reconciliation process, to have an inclusive approach, to have a political rather than a military approach to fix the situation in Afghanistan. And I think the stance that Pakistan had taken has been vindicated to a large extent.
But there are claims that constantly that the ISI, your country's intelligence service, is effectively supporting the Taliban, and that as a result it's impossible to differentiate between the both.
You know, I think some of these perceptions are a legacy of the past, when we had recognized the Taliban government in Afghanistan. But the point is that the ISI itself has come under attack many times from these extremist elements that you are referring to.
But isn't it not a case where there's smoke, there's fire?
The point is that once ISI's headquarters itself came under attack, that basically shows that they're certainly not on the same page. The ISI certainly is not helping any of the extremists, and we are committed We are committed both to the U.S. government and also to every country in the world that we will not allow Pakistan to be, our territory to be allowed to be for terrorist activities against other countries.
Now, the argument to reopen supply routes apparently was about the issue of money, with reportedly Islamabad wanting to massively increase the fees for every time a NATO truck used those supply routes. But it appears that your country backed down. Why was that? Was it just a case of bluster on your part?
No, certainly. I think money was never an issue between us and NATO and ISAF countries. That was basically something that was highlighted by the media. You need to remember that Pakistan has been providing this transit facility for the last 10 years without charging a single penny. And this is, I think, the government decided, during our negotiation that we will not charge a single penny because we are more interested. We would be more interested in peace and stability in Afghanistan. We would want to facilitate a process whereby Afghanistan will move towards a stable Afghanistan.
But as you know, Foreign Secretary, in the world of diplomacy, image is everything. And the image was, in that case, that it was Pakistan who backed down when it came to this issue.
Well, I think as far as Pakistan is concerned, we followed the parliamentary recommendations that were finalized in March with regard to our engagement with the U.S. on whether it was the question of NATO supplies, whether it was the question of apology, whether it was the other issues that were there. So we, you need to realize that now we have a democracy in Pakistan and things are moved, everything is debated within the parliament, and it is exactly according to the parliamentary recommendation that the government acted.
But isn't the problem at the end of the day that it's the military, the army, that has control over foreign and security policy and not the government?
Well, again, that is an issue which is a debatable issue because military is an important arm of any government. In any government, I can't sort of visualize any country where the military does not have its own inputs. Like any country in the world, the Pakistan army or Pakistan military has its input in foreign policy formulations. But then at the end of the day, it is up to the democratic government as to what decision is taken at the end of the day. I think in Pakistan's context also, if you look at the developments which have taken place in the last 4 years, it is the political government which has been taking the decisions. Certainly, the input that we get from the army is very, very important, as is the case in any other country.
But there's still much anger in Pakistan, isn't there, over the Osama bin Laden raid? But the Americans said at the time afterwards that they couldn't trust either members of the government nor the military, which is why you guys were not kept in the loop. Do you understand why they did it?
I would refer you to a very interesting book written by George Tenet, the former CIA director, in which he repeatedly says that we could not have the kind of successes in nabbing extremists without the cooperation of ISI. So I see there is a degree of contradiction there. Pakistan cannot be trusted. If you look at the history of the last 10 years, most of the high-value targets, they were either apprehended by our security agencies or through a joint cooperative mechanism. So I really don't understand why this question of where this question of trust comes from.
But it's a persistent issue, isn't it? I mean, it's not just the Americans, but there are many others in the West. I mean, the British Prime Minister David Cameron had a go at the Pakistani government for saying what he said was playing both sides of the game.
Well, I think this perception was because of a certain environment that had been created in our region. But I think the way things are moving, I think probably we are moving it towards a positive trajectory in our relationship. And I have absolutely no doubt that you will see a lesser degree of such accusation against Pakistan.
In regards to Afghanistan, who do you want to see in power? Because there's been a lot of speculation that in government corridors in Islamabad, it is the Taliban who you want to see in power, and especially given you've got 2014 coming up, which is when the American troops will be withdrawing.
Well, look, for Afghanistan, I think security and stability is extremely important. For Pakistan, a stable Afghanistan would bring about stability in Pakistan as well as in the region. We can have enormous economic opportunities in case there is stability in Afghanistan. Having said that, I think there is Pakistan, as far as we are concerned, we feel that there should be an inclusive process. It is for the Afghan government to decide. It is for the Afghan people to decide as to what kind of dispensation they want to have post to 2014. But it has to be an inclusive process which includes every group in the future dispensation.
But one driving factor that is fueling concern in Islamabad is India and its growing role in Afghanistan. Is that an issue in your opinion?
Well, I would say that if any country undertakes a legitimate role in Afghanistan, Pakistan will have absolutely no issue with that. It is only when a country would go beyond a legitimate mandate that we will have concerns.
I just want to finally ask you this question, because India has been saying it's been giving increasingly detailed evidence to Islamabad over the last 3 years about the role of Pakistani militants in those attacks in Mumbai in 2008. And they've urged Pakistan to crack down. Now, Islamabad in return is saying that New Delhi has not given them enough usable information. Where do things stand on that matter?
Well, I was recently in India talking to for our foreign secretary level dialogue, and this issue also came up during our discussions. Terrorism is certainly a serious issue between Pakistan and India, and what we had emphasized during our meetings was that we need to address this issue with a degree of sincerity. We have to have a quiet and candid discussions to resolve these, to overcome this issue. Terrorism is a common problem for both Pakistan and India, and I think we need to fight it jointly. At the same time, what we would like to urge is that this is an issue which should be dealt with in a certain fashion, which is a serious and sincere fashion.
Foreign Secretary, thank you so much for being with us. And that's it for this edition of the Frans van Kaat interview. Stay tuned for more news, which is coming up very shortly indeed.
Thank you so much.